Wake that ass up.
In the morning.
The Breakfast Club.
Morning, everybody. It's DJ NV, Charlamagne the God. We are the Breakfast Club. We got our guest host with us, Lala, here this morning.
Hey.
And we got our guest.
A person I'm happy
now.
to see, but also not happy to see.
Oh, Lord.
Why? yes. Yes.
He knows why.
Yes.
He knows why.
Stephen A. Smith, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome.
What up, baby?
Hey.
It's good seeing you,
Good
man.
morning.
It's always good
Do you
to
know
see
this
Lala.
man dedicated the whole last chapter to his book, damn near slandering Cowboy fans?
I'm not mad at it.
I'm like, why?
I wouldn't say slander. I was being factual. And once again, I was proven to be correct. I mentioned you on Get Up the other
heard
morning.
about it.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's ridiculous, man. These Dallas Cowboy fans, they're like cockroaches. They're everywhere.
They're delirious
But
cockroaches.
But I told them, I said, just be patient. Everybody, they was winning games. Everybody was excited. I said, just be patient. It's coming. And sure enough, when the lights got brightest, what happened?
You'll be happy to know I had no expectations for the playoffs. They'll tell you.
No, he
I had
didn't.
none.
He didn't.
I actually thought they was going to lose to Tampa.
Okay. Well,
I
you
really
do
did.
understand you're an anomaly. You're an aberration.
I'm learning.
Most Cowboy fans. You're learning.
I'm learning to be emotionally
you're-
disconnected
That's what you
from my
have to
Cowboys.
do. You have to do because they're going to break your heart, bro.
That's right.
That's what the Knicks do to me. That's what the Cowboys going to do to you.
That's right.
Now, we can talk about sports all day, but you got a book out.
No,
Yeah,
an
man.
amazing book, by
Thank
the way.
you.
Now,
Thank
you
bro.
go into your life about this book. Usually, you don't talk about your personal life
never.
at all.
I
We
don't.
never hear about your
I
personal
don't
life.
never
ever
do.
hear about your
Some of these
personal
stories
life.
that I've been hearing, I was like, really? I had no idea. So why did you decide to go so in depth about your personal
Well,
life?
first of all, the seat that I sit in every day doing First Take on ESPN, I pride myself in not character assassinating people. I talk about what you do, not who you are. But nevertheless, by being in that seat, similar to the seat that y'all have, if you're going to do something like that, then you know what? You owe it to the audience to let them know who you are, where you come from, what your perspective is, et cetera, et cetera. And I got to give both of y'all props, actually all three of y'all props, because all of y'all have been authors. And the fact of the matter is the kind of limelight that y'all have been in, the seat that y'all sit in, when you start writing about something, you ultimately feel an obligation to let people know who you are, what you're all about, what your perspectives are. And so to me, to see people do that, I knew that if I was going to write a book, there was only one way I could go about doing it. It ain't some damn sports book. It's got to be about me, who I am, how I think, why I came to be, how I am, the way that I think, et cetera, et cetera. I thought I owed that to the audience, and the only reason I hesitated once I got let go by ESPN in 2009, in 2011, people were coming to me to write a book, and I knew I wanted it to be about my life, et cetera, et cetera. And my mother at the time, who had just gotten diagnosed with cancer, one that she lost in 2017, God rest her soul, she said, she made me swear, you will never write this book while I'm alive.
I understand why after reading it, because
Yes.
I'm sure it had to do with your relationship with your father.
Yes.
Which I felt like
That's exactly why.
Yeah, you addressed the topic most men don't discuss enough, and that is our relationship with our fathers. How difficult was it to explore that topic?
It was hard. And the reason why it was hard, it wasn't the writing process, it was the editing process, which y'all all know. You write it, but they look at it, the editing process. And so when they're editing, it's calling upon you to revisit and revisit over and over and over again. And I didn't wait until a book was finished to show it to my sisters. I got 4 older sisters. And I didn't wait until the book was finished. When I wrote those specific chapters, I sent it to them. And they didn't talk to me for 2 weeks.
Really?
And I thought they were originally upset. They weren't upset. They were just saying, we had buried these memories a long time ago.
You brought them back up.
And they said, you brought it back up. We ain't knocking you for it. We understand. But it just hurt a lot to revisit some of those experiences because we had buried them for the longest time. And the details that you had, they couldn't believe that I remembered because I reminded them. And they were like, yeah,
You never
this
forget
happened,
those.
this happened, that happened.
Yeah,
And
my
I said,
dad is
I never
no
forgot.
hero.
Yeah. My dad, he wasn't.
I feel like the things you said about him in the book are the things you wanted to say about him at his funeral.
Yeah, that's accurate.
Yeah.
I told him to his face. I didn't say anything in the book that I didn't tell him to his face.
Okay.
So let me be clear about that. In 2018, he passed away 14 months after my mother passed away. And when he passed away, I called my sister Carmen the morning of his funeral. And they had mapped out the funeral and, the pastor was going to give the sermon. He was going to eulogize him, all this stuff. And I said, I'm doing the eulogy. And Carmen was like, God, no. Steve, please. Please, Steve, don't do this. Don't do this. She said, what are you going to say? I said, you'll find out when you get to the funeral. And she's like, Steve, don't do this. What will mommy want? What will mommy want? You know what mommy would say? I said, I got it. And I was going to go in. And I was going to literally say everything that you see in the book. And
You spoke to Pastor A.R. Bernard.
And I called Pastor A.R. Bernard. Something told me to call him. You know, I've been going to CCC. I've known Pastor Bernard for 30 years. And so I said, let me call him. And I called him and told him what I was feeling. And he was like, you're right to feel that way. I'm very familiar with your story. He said, you're not wrong. He said, but the Bible talks about God's grace and God's mercy. And he said, and you might want to think about that before you decide to speak your truth. And when I eulogized my father, I went up on the stage after everybody gave all the plaudables, all the nice things, the pleasantries they had to say about him. And I walked up and the first words out of my mouth was, that's y'all memories of him. Memories of my family, we have an entirely different story. And I saw my cousin Derek keel over like, oh no, please. And I saw my brother-in-law, it was like, oh Lord, he's about to go in. And I saw neighbors that were in the audience that I hadn't seen in years that just showed up for my dad's funeral. And they were like literally lip syncing to me, please don't do this. And I said, my father was not a good man. I said, but then I brought up my mother. I said, my mother knows nothing about sports. I'm Stephen A. I work for ESPN. The sports world knows who I am. My mother says EPSN, whatever it is. I don't know what, she didn't even know the letters. I said, but she knew what a home run was. She knew what a no-hitter was. She knew what a stolen base was. And she knew it because of him, because she loved my father so much that she knew baseball because of him. I said, so there evidently was something very special about him to have a woman like my mother. And then I talked about a lot of the happy moments that he gave us. And then I ended it by saying, at the end of the day, he's still my dad, and I love him. And I don't think I would have gotten to that point if it wasn't for A.R. Bernard.
Wow.
What made you change your perspective of how to talk about him for the book? Was it because you could add more context? You could add the full context?
More, because I could add the full context. And not only that, I owe it, if I'm going to write it, well then, I didn't know it was going to be like 78 to 80,000 words, but I literally wrote 90,000 words. I wrote the book myself. And when no ghostwriter, it was me. I wrote this book. I did the audio. It was another voice. It was me. And I just said, if I'm going to do this, then I owe it to everybody. I mean, and because of the business that I'm in, I imagine talking to you. I can see the questions, because I'm experienced enough to know what's coming. I know what I would ask. I know what I would think about. And I wanted to make sure that I left no doubt as to where I stood and, what I was trying to say. And that's what I did.
And I have a question. So even though obviously you know how you felt when you were writing the book, because it was your thoughts and feelings, was there a sense of like that therapeutic element? Like, when people actually put the words on paper and write it down and read it and look at it, a lot of authors say like it's a form of therapy. It's like I finally got it out my head and on the paper.
Possibly so. I'm not saying that I didn't feel that way, but there was a bigger emotion coming from it, Lala. When my mother passed away, I was a mama's boy. I loved her dearly. We were very tight, and I was devastated for a long time. What I would tell you is while everybody else around us was very sad, the emotion that I had was fury. And the fury that I had was that, this is 5 years ago. I got my first big contract from ESPN in 2015. I got the second one in 2020, 3 years after she passed away. But I was there, and I knew that I was in a position where obviously I could give to her, but I was getting to a position where there was so much more that I could give to this woman who had done everything for us. Worked 2 jobs, 16 hours a day, 7 days a week, 1 week's vacation a year for 20 plus years because she had to, because he wouldn't do his job. And so because of that, to see her in the grave before him and to see her deprived, she was 76 years old. My mother was at a point where let her go on a couple of cruises a year and she's in heaven. Right. Well, obviously I'm in a position to do more than that for her. And so for me, for her to pass away, I was furious. So when it came time for his funeral, it just galled me, the thought of everyone showing up to celebrate someone who had taken so much away from her. He took away from us too, but that's all right. Stuff happens. Nobody's perfect. Mistakes do happen. But when it came to my mother, it's a different kind of animal. You can make mistakes in life and a relationship and fall apart. I'm man enough to say, okay, that's y'all business. As long as you ain't put your hands on my mother, we good. That's y'all business. What was unforgivable to me was not paying any bills.
Yeah.
allowing her to work the hours you were supposed to be working, to have the obligations you were supposed to have.
So when you
That's
had
a person
that
you're supposed to take off.
You said you had a conversation with him. When you had the conversation before he died, what was his reasoning?
Well, this was years earlier. I would tell you about 5 years earlier, we were in my dining room. We were in my mother's dining room. And my father was one of those dudes that was stubborn to the end, and he never saw that he was wrong until he absolutely had to. And so he's in there, and his older brother, my Uncle Freddie, was sitting next to him. And my father was like, you don't know what the hell you're talking about. You don't realize what I've done for you. I said, you haven't done anything for me. You know you haven't done anything for me.
Don't give him too much of the book now.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I said that.
Gotta go buy it.
And I said that. And, he started arguing with me. And my Uncle Freddie looked at him and he said, Bassol. That was his middle name, Bassol. And he said, shut the fuck up. He said, this is Stephen. He's a journalist for a living. You know he knows what you have and have not done, chapter and verse. You have no shot. Just be quiet. And my father just sat back and just took it. And I just left it alone from there.
You know, I think the relationship with your father is the most important part of the book because it opens up so much other stuff. Like you talk about how watching your father and your mother's relationship made you never want to get married. Yeah. And you talked about things in the book I didn't know. I didn't know you had 2 baby mamas. Mm-hmm. How's Disney gonna feel about that?
Well, first of all, I don't expect them to like it because it's the one thing that my mother was ashamed of. Of my entire life. I've been on this earth 55 years. She passed away when I was 49 going on my 50th birthday. And that was the only thing that my mother was ever ashamed of me for. Because I wore, I had condoms on lock like credit cards. It was like I didn't leave home without them. I was never going to compromise myself by putting myself in that position. And then I lost my way. And so because of that, my mother was like, okay, so now that you screwed this up, she said, there's only one way you can make up for it. You have to be the best father that you could possibly be. You have to make sure what you made a promise to me about from the time that you were 16 years old, that you will never be like your father. She said, that's what I expect. And so since that moment in time, that's why when Kobe passed away and everybody's talking about that girl dad, it's like it resonated with me in a very significant way because, my daughters are everything to me. And so, I've always lived by this philosophy, but it's the same with my mom. It was with my mom as it is with my daughters. I'm not comfortable unless they're comfortable. I don't eat unless they eat. I don't go on vacation till they go on vacation. I don't live a posh and affluent life unless they live in it. I make sure that they're taken care of first. And the thing that I shamed her with is also the things that I've made her very proud about. She was very proud of the father that I am, and I'm very proud of the father that I strive to be. It's a never-ending process. I am not looking forward to growing older with 2 daughters, thinking about the man I once was before I became a daddy, praying and hoping that they don't run in to a young Stephen A. Yep. I'm definitely that dude, but I'm also very, very happy and very proud of the father I am, and having 2 beautiful daughters has made me a much better man and a much better human being, and far, far, far more compassionate than I ever thought I'd be.
And I know we don't got much time because you got to get the go down and do First Take. But it's so much. Did Skip ever get in trouble for anything he said on First Take? Because you talk about the times you
First Take or his
First
show.
Take. You on First Take because you talk about the times that you got in trouble on First Take, and I'm like, well, Skip had crazy opinions too, and the opinions you had weren't necessarily like suspension worthy and stuff.
I never recall Skip getting in trouble.
Wow.
Ever. In terms of a suspension or anything like that. When I got suspended, I was furious. I did not believe I deserved it. I was pissed off to the highest degree because I just thought that, it was made into something that it wasn't. And so for me, whatever my opinions are, I don't mind anybody coming at me about that. This is what we feel about what you said. It's when they try to branch it out and turn it into something that it was not. That's what pisses me off, because what happens is when you have Disney, and I'm not knocking Disney for this at all. Listen, man, we got stockholders, got shareholders. You got people to appease. And so you got to pay attention to everybody. You ain't after black, white, Hispanic appeal. You have to mass appeal. You want it all. And so as a result of that, you have to pay attention to everything and everybody. And so when that noise is made, my boss at the time felt compelled to respond to the noise. And when he got suspended 48 hours earlier, he told me I wasn't going to be suspended.
Exactly.
We're fine.
Yeah, I read that. Yeah.
And then, he turned around and suspended me. And so for me, I've learned a lot. I'm a lot better. And what I try to do, and all of y'all can attest to this at one time or another, we've all had private conversations. I'll whisper something in y'all ear about something to watch out for. I'm very, very big about these are the minefields.
Yep.
Watch out, because what I'm saying is, as a product of corporate America, somebody that's been in corporate America for over 30 years, I kind of know where the minefields are. And so as a result of that, I might see cats on the come up that I think is going to be in my position or an even higher position. And I'm saying, come here. Let me make sure I tip you off to this. Watch out for this. Watch out for this. Watch out for that. Because I want y'all to succeed. I don't want y'all to fail. Who the hell wants to be successful alone?
Now, who the
I was
worst
shocked that
fans?
Skip sat with you though.
In
When you
terms
got
of what?
suspended.
Oh yeah, it shocked me too. But he listen. He walked off the set. Said I ain't coming back until my man comes back on, because he knew it was wrong too. But I was really shocked that he took that position. I certainly didn't ask him to, and I'm appreciative of that. Doesn't mean shoot, we still disagree 99% of the time, but I did appreciate the fact that he took that position on my behalf.
I was going to say, who are the worst fans? Are they Cowboy fans?
Man, I care about that. Go ahead, Locke.
Skip fans?
Yeah.
Or the Navy fans?
Cowboy fans. Nobody's worse. Nobody's worse. But I will tell you,
The Navy got at you a little bit.
They, they came for your head.
First of all, let me be very, very clear.
You don't give a damn about
I
the
don't
Navy.
give a damn. I want to be very, very clear about that. It doesn't faze me. It really, really doesn't. Lala, after you've known me for years, I'm just built that way. Rihanna, if she had a problem, that would have bothered me, not her fans. I challenge anybody to tell me one negative thing I said about that wonderful performer and young lady.
Well, you
I've
didn't
never
give
said-
no nuance to it.
No.
You just said Rihanna's
Okay.
no Beyonce.
Well,
Like,
let
if
me-
you'd have said Rihanna doesn't perform as well as Beyonce.
Well, let me give you an
does.
insight. Let me hook you
Okay.
up on the inside. Sherry Shepherd's team. I'm promoting my book last Tuesday. Sherry Shepherd's team comes up to me and they said, "Since you're here, we want a debate-like format. We want to have fun with it." I said, "Okay, bring it. No problem." I didn't know what they were going to ask, right? But I said, "Sure, no problem." So I'm expecting a debate, right? And I knew that I was just in the room talking about Beyonce, because one of my all-time favorite performers, Beyonce with Bruno Mars and Coldplay, is one of my favorites. Now, obviously, Dr. Dre and Snoop and them last year. I mean, Lord have mercy. I mean, I'm mad I wasn't there, but that's I think that Beyonce might be the greatest female performer of all time. That's how I feel about her. I think Rihanna's fantastic. By the way, both of them got my money because I bought both albums. Okay, so my attitude was, Rihanna's great, but I'm thinking you got a lot to live up to because there's only one Beyonce. Now, you agree, fine. You disagree, fine. How we get to the point why he got to pit two black women again? Really?
Well,
I just can't be a fan of both, but I prefer Beyonce over Rihanna. That's a crime.
Now,
I didn't know that.
In your book, you talk about learning lessons.
Yes.
And you have gotten in trouble for that before
Yes.
when you pitted Ayesha Curry against Savannah James.
That's right. Listen, first of all, this.
Yeah.
Fair question.
Lala said, yeah.
Fair question. Lala, and I'm going to talk.
And you said that tape cost you the Sports Center gig, which I didn't know.
I'm going
talk to Lala.
to talk to Lala.
I didn't know that.
Yes. Let me explain what happened. So Steph Curry is in Game 6 of the NBA Finals. LeBron and Kyrie are coming. They won Game 5 after Draymond got suspended. Bogut and Iguodala got hurt. They win Game 5. Game 6, they coming at Golden State. They down 12 with about 4 minutes left. And Steph Curry fouls out. Steph Curry pulls out his mouthpiece, tries to throw it at the official, but misses it, hits a fan by accident, blah, blah, blah. Ayesha Curry goes ballistic. What y'all may not have known was that, and I love Ayesha Curry. I mean, no problem, throwing no shade on her whatsoever. I'm just telling you what happened. Prior to the game, she had tweeted that she was upset because they were backed up in traffic. Now, Jay-Z and Beyonce were coming to the game, but nobody knew. So the Cleveland Arena, the Gundam, whatever it was, right, the Quickest Loans Arena, they held up the traffic. So she was mad about that and was talking about how the wives and the family of the players for Golden State were being inconvenienced. She complained something else about the officiating, blah, blah, blah.
Wow, now
Then
you putting
after
Ayesha versus Beyonce?
No.
Wow, Steven.
How you see so crazy, man. Stop, man. So what happened is that she did that, and then she went off after Steph Curry, fouled out all of that other stuff. What I said was, you are representing your man at that particular moment in time. Anything that you do, it's not you, it's the wife of him. And so because of that, you have to guard yourself and be careful. Skip comes back at me and says, oh, please, what are you talking about? Blah, 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 blah. And I'm jumping in like, wait a minute. You will get on LeBron about anything.
Yeah.
How all of a sudden this escapes you? You know what I'm saying? So that's how the whole Savannah Ayesha thing came up, because what I was saying was, if this were LeBron, you would have found an excuse to jump on him. And we all know that Savannah is phenomenal. So what are you talking about? That's all I was saying. My regret was, at the same time, I didn't say, you are Hillary Rodham Clinton. Bill Clinton, you cannot get yourself into some nonsense because she's running for the president. You understand? You can't be out there messing up because it's going to bring attention to her while she's trying to win the presidency. I didn't bring that up because I wasn't thinking about that in the moment, but I'm only bringing that up as an example that I should have mentioned because I wasn't trying to make it an agenda thing. I'm saying if Lala is in a public position, if you are in a public situation in the moment and there's a tension that your spouse or your significant other could potentially bring to you that could that could make it detrimental to what you're trying to accomplish, they can't get in the way of that. That's all I was trying to say.
Wow, you've been in that position.
I've been in that position. The thing is that also nobody in this room has been married to an NBA player before. Day in and day out, you're hearing about things that are going on. You're getting vented to about everything. You have emotions. You act off emotions sometimes. So every night you're hearing about this, whatever's being said, and it's just building up, and you get protective, and then something just sets you off, and you want to say something because you realize your spouse has continuously taken the high road. I said earlier, I remember a time, we talked about it before you came, when I think I tweeted something at Skip Bayless, because I was like, yo, enough with the mellow slander every single day, and he's not saying anything, and I'm just like, this is enough, because now it's affecting the household, it's affecting the mood, it's so it becomes a bigger thing that it's like, somebody got to say something. Now, is it a right time and place for those things? Of course, but when you care about somebody, when you're protective, and when you're competitive, we're all competitors, and you act off emotion, you say things that might not be the right time, the right place, but at that time, you're not thinking like that.
That's absolutely true. And my point is that I didn't blame Ayesha Curry for anything. I was saying in that moment, you can't do that. I've never said a word about her prior to that, right? And so I said that. And when I said that, her response was, you pitting two black women against each other. And I was like, what? How we get to that?
Well, you did, whether you realize it or not.
Okay, fine. I didn't look at it that way, but that's fine. If you're saying that I did, okay, well then now I'll correct it. So what happens is I go back to the office, and a few days later, after the finals is over, and it's like a damn morgue. Executives are walking around, their head down. I'm like, what the hell happened? And they were like, man, what you did, it was bad. It was bad. And I find out weeks later, the sports center, the 6 o'clock sports center that was supposed to be given to me, I was supposed to host First Take in the morning, and the 6 o'clock sports center by myself at night, and it was taken away from me because of that one incident.
So what's going to be taken away from you because of Rihanna?
Shut up, man.
Nothing. And you know something? And if it ever does, fine. Because at the end of the day, there's a level of authenticity that has to come with what we do.
I agree.
I'm going to be me. Damn it, that's how I feel. I did not say a negative word about Rihanna. I think she's sensational. I'm just a Beyonce fan. When you go in there, I don't care. And if anybody tells me differently, I'm not going to even discuss it because you're lying. We go home, we all got our favorite artist. We all have our favorite actors and actresses. We all have, there's a particular show we like watching more than others. There's particular music we like listening to more than others. It doesn't mean that we don't like this person, or that person. It just means we have our favorites. That is not a crime.
You just didn't explain the context on Sherry. There was no context to it. Well,
I didn't know I would have to. How did I know this was going to happen? You got to remember, you live in this world. I'm doing sports. I didn't even know. Did you know that I didn't know about Navy until last week?
Really?
I had no clue.
As soon as you said it, I knew what it was.
could've told you
Zero.
they were gonna get on
Yeah,
your
we
ass.
knew-
But I
we
didn't
knew
care
it.
about. I didn't care about that. What I cared about, to be honest with you, the one concern that I had was right on this show when Angela Rye was talking about why are we pitting two black women against. I was, oh my God, I'm glad I wasn't here that morning because I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? So if I sit up there and I say, listen, I'm not apologizing for this. For example, there's a lot of people that I like. There's a lot of women that I know that are cool people. I don't like too many people more than I like Lala. Lala's always known that. I ain't apologizing for it to anybody.
But if you say
And that
I
make me
like
a
Lala
crime?
more than,
So?
then it's now
So
you,
what?
now you're gonna get
Listen,
silly.
I'm not
He
going to
should
do
be
it.
able to say
I
who
don't
he
feel,
likes more
I
than
don't
somebody
feel, I
else.
don't feel
I
like
agree.
it.
You should.
No. If I sit up there and I say, you ugly, you got a stink attitude, I don't like you, that's different. If I sit up there and say, look, you know, you a sensational woman, but you ain't Lala.
Damn.
That might be something you got to get over. You got to get over that.
Oh my God.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, listen, I'm not a lot of people. So what?
So if somebody says, Stephen A., you ain't no Kendrick Perkins, which
So,
I love Perk, but that's
so,
not.
so
you know,
what?
Yeah.
That's your opinion.
Yeah.
Last time I checked, the check still comes.
Yeah.
I still got my job. I'm still going to work every day. I'm still the #1 show. You can say
Talk
who you
that
want to
talk.
say.
Yeah.
I mean, you can say what you want to say. It doesn't affect me. Now, if you sat up there and said you ain't shit, that's a different topic. That's a different conversation. But if you have someone that you prefer more than me, so what?
Now, Stephen got to go. I know
So
I had a
what?
question.
So do you just feel like in your position you really just cannot care what anyone thinks about you? Because
No.
I feel like people always want to say like I don't care what anybody thinks about, but there is a point that everyone does care, and everyone has a place where they truly do want to be liked by people.
But I'm not saying I don't care about what people think in general, Lala. I'm saying there are certain things we can't care about because we know it's not as unfair and as inhumane as people are trying to make it out to be. If I sat up there and I disrespected Rihanna and I said I don't care, that's a problem. Because she doesn't deserve that. She's home. She's a new mom. She's a beautiful artist. She's doing her things. Most people would dream to have the life that she's had. She's earned it. I got nothing but mad love and respect for her. If I said something disrespectful like that and I didn't care, that's a problem. That's a lack of humanity. I would never do that. What I'm saying is it's not a crime to say, I'm a huge Beyonce fan. There is only one. And you about to go on the same stage she has blessed not once but twice. And there is a standard to live up
bar.
to.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong. You come on First Take. I'm sorry, y'all. There's a bar that's been set. I've said it. You come on Breakfast Club. There's a bar that's been set. Y'all said it. You do what the things, all the different things that you're doing with Power and now BMF. I'm seeing you. I'm watching what you're doing. You know, you continue to ascend. Well, damn it, everybody can't measure up to you. Now, that doesn't mean they're whack. It doesn't mean they're not gifted. It means they're not you.
You got a line in
That's
the book.
all.
You got a line in the book that kind of sums that up. You say on First Take, we capitalize on the kind of polarization people supposedly abhor. What's the word? Abhor?
I believe so. I'm trying to remember. I mean, I
ABHOR.
read it 11 times, but I'm just
But
saying.
that's what that feels like, though.
In terms of what?
Like what you're discussing. Like it's the kind of polarization, people act like they don't like, but we do it all the time.
But what I'm saying is this. You wake up and you pay attention. We all do it. You have a show. You know what's trending. You know what's newsworthy. You know what's percolating. And and not only that, you know who percolates. And so because of that, it determines what subject matter you're going to tackle because you're not doing the show for you. You're doing the show for the audience you're trying to reach. And I have an audience that has an expectation as it pertains to content. And so when we're talking about sports and it's me, there's a level of expectation that they have as it pertains to the issues I'm willing to tackle. I'm mindful and cognizant of that, and I operate accordingly. And when somebody questions that, I would remind them I've been #1 for 11 years. Every month, every year for 11 years. So evidently, I kind of have an idea of what people want to see and hear.
All right.
I know you got to go. I got one more question
Sure,
because
go ahead.
it ties into all of this. In the No Safety Net chapter, you talk about basically personalities who attack other personalities for things they say. Because you talk about, I think it was the Ray Rice scandal. And
Yes.
Everybody got upset with what you said about that. And I feel the same way. I'm like, man, if you got a microphone in front of you, you're going to say something at some point that you're going to get backlash for. Yes. So I don't understand when I see other personalities like calling for other personalities to be fired.
It's weak.
And cancel,
It's weak.
yep.
Yeah.
What it is And remember this, all three of y'all here, remember what I'm about to say. When you're winning, they always coming for you. Because unfortunately, particularly in this day and age, their definition of winning, the closest they can get to it, is knocking you off your perch instead of creating one for their own. Mm-hmm. It's inevitable. And it's just like when he used to call me donkey of the day and all of this other stuff, and people expected me to have a problem with him. When I first met you, what did I say? I had no problem with it whatsoever. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Because he didn't attack me. He attacked what I felt about a particular issue. I know the difference. They wanted to create that divide. You're not creating that, because I'm going to root for y'all. And I want y'all to root for me. And I'm going to root for a whole bunch of brothers and sisters to make it. But in the same breath, you have to be real and authentic about what's going on in the moment that is going on. And do what you can to enlighten folks if you feel you have an enlightening point of view. That's what you do, and you let the chips fall where they may. People who don't win are real good about doing what you described. Let them keep doing it, because it reminds you that you're a winner. Otherwise, they wouldn't be talking about you.
I want to end it with something.
Sure.
Because I learned a lot from you, and I feel like it's vice versa. I do want to say this, because I was really sitting here thinking about what we were talking about earlier, and I want to say this. You know, it is important. Everyone can have an opinion, and who you like better is your opinion. But I will say this. As a black woman, let's acknowledge and celebrate the fact that we have two amazing, talented black women who were able to do the halftime show at the Super Bowl.
Absolutely.
Outside of sports, fans and players, the majority of people I know, that's the reason they watch the Super Bowl. Not for who's playing. They're watching for that halftime show. So let's acknowledge and uplift and applaud the fact that on such a huge forum, you had Beyonce and now you have Rihanna.
That's right.
As a black woman, I'm proud of that. That's something that makes me proud. That doesn't take away from your opinion on who you like more or whatever. But at that moment, for me, it's about uplifting the fact that we need to celebrate that.
Well, let me end it by saying this. I completely agree with that. 1,000%. And what you're saying and what you would prefer is entirely different than someone throwing out an accusation that my sentiment was making it a divide between two black women. That's a difference. You're just simply saying they're both great. Let's celebrate them. No problem. No problem whatsoever. That's entirely different than...
And understanding that they're both the reason that majority of people are even watching.
That's right.
You guys are watching for the sports aspect, and but majority of people are watching for that halftime
But what
show.
happens is that when we question people's intent because they express something differently, what happens is then you then lose those folks that think like that, because they're like, oh, here they go with this. And I'm like, no. At the end of the day, Rihanna is phenomenal, and she's got her own army, or navy, as they say.
Navy, yep.
Beyonce's got her crew. They're both fantastic. They both sell out stadiums and arenas. They're both making gobs and gobs of money, and they've earned it, okay? Much love and respect to you. Ain't no doubt about it. I'm rooting for her. I ain't rooting against her. I'm just a Beyonce fan.
I think with these microphones, and it's something that we would debate to the end of time, intention versus impact.
Yes.
Because it's a lot of times my intention wasn't to offend, but then somebody like Allah got to be like, nah, you offended. You impacted that person in a negative way.
Right.
In those moments, you just got to apologize and keep it moving.
Yeah,
I
understand.
Well, Steve, I gotta go, guys.
Which is what I did.
Yeah.
But let me be very clear.
People didn't like your apology either, though.
Well, the hell with all that. First of all, Leslie Jones on Comedy Central, hilarious.
She got you.
So and she's
you.
supposed to.
Yeah, she got
That's
you.
what she does. I wasn't offended by it at all. All right, because she's great.
Not
okay,
even the hairline
And if
joke? You don't have to think about
bro,
that, like-
it's there, struggling. But I'm 55. Yeah. It ain't like I'm 35 walking around with
You ever
this
thought
stuff.
about doing the
I'm 55.
surgery?
You know what? No.
Envy got it.
I might visit
I
Hair
have a
Club for
new
Men.
hair
I
product, and I got something.
I might visit Hair Club for Men because I don't think I'm Godzilla, but I ain't the most attractive dude in the world. But if my hairline move forward, I might have there might be hope for me. There might be hope for me. There might be hope for me.
I got some Manala rice water drops for you.
Okay. Does it work?
You think it'll work?
It works.
It better work, Lala.
Look at Charlamagne.
It better work.
Charlamagne gonna try.
Let me tell you something right now. Because then they're gonna get on me for getting that as another sister. Because if it don't work, I'm blaming you, Lala. I'm blaming you right now. I'm just telling you right now. I'm blaming you. I'm blaming you, Lala. I'm telling you right now. Didn't you recommend this for me? That's exactly what I'm gonna do. I'm telling you that right now. I appreciate y'all, though, man.
Thank you so much. I just want to tell you one last thing.
Yeah, man.
We have a new studio.
Okay.
So now we have the option to go to you when we need some questions. So next season, the Cowboys start losing, and I need to go to you for some backup or some
You
help.
mean like a Zoom call,
like a
something
Zoom,
like that?
right to that camera. We could patch you right in.
I got y'all.
And you could just.
I'm telling you
I
right
got
now.
y'all.
Cowboys going to the Super Bowl next year.
I gotta go. I can't do it. I can't do it.
It's the Breakfast Club. Good morning.
Y'all ridiculous.